hoping everyone gets interactive, asks questions, but I'm going to throw it over to Laurie here. Hi, Laurie. Sorry for the headache.
Yeah, no problem.
Can you do just a little introduction for us, kind of your coaching career and whatnot?
Well, that could take a but I grew up in Regina and went to University of Saskatchewan, where I played for Mark Tennant, who is a legendary coach in Saskatchewan. Had built a really incredible program there, just having won 3 national championships in a row, and really had the honor to play for Mark and then coach with him for 4 years after that. Job came up in Alberta, and in 91, my husband and I moved out this way, and the rest is history. So being here since 91, and feel like I'm kind of the luckiest person on the planet.
Awesome. Well, I know that you hit your biggest win streak here with over 800 wins. Is that something that you as a coach follow, or is it something that someone told you after it actually happened?
Yeah, I had no idea. It's something that is really a credit to all the people that I've had the pleasure of working with and along with athletes over the years. And it's not something that any coach, I don't think, sets a mark that they want to reach this milestone. I think it means coach for a really long time, playing a lot of matches, along with the 800 plus wins. There's a lot of losses in there as well. And, I'm happy to celebrate the wins, because I think it is a kind of significant around being able to have a career in coaching, which is something that when I started in 91, I really wasn't sure that it was something that I could do in the long term. But it's more a statement of being able to, the sustainability of the profession and the rewards of the profession that kept me coming back.
Your biggest, I know there's a lot that you bring to the table, being a legend in the coaching game here. But, a lot of your assistant coaches have gone on to be head coaches. And what's your secret here? Is it something that they come to you and say, hey, I want to be a head coach one day? Or is it something that these assistant coaches fall into? You obviously have great success with this. So what's the secret on this?
Well, I think for the most part, the ones that have gone on to head coaching, that was their goal, and they were very open about it. So I don't think there's that much, honestly, that I did for them other than to create potentially opportunities for them to learn and to develop as coaches. And I give them access to a level of play that enabled them to learn not only the stuff, the X's and O's, which I think you can learn in a lot of different ways, but some of the more of the art of coaching and things behind the scenes, and things about running a program that allows it to become more of a profession for people and to be successful at the university level. So, it's working collaboratively with them and identifying where the gaps are in their knowledge or their experience, and then trying to create a system so that we can fill some of those gaps so they're more employable, and then trying to promote them, trying to just give them, I have become a better delegator for I've gone in I'm a control freak like any other coach, but,
right.
Learning to delegate and really empower them with responsibility and opportunities to
I think it might be her end of things that is keeps cutting out here. So everyone who's watching, hang tight here. I'll just give her what's going on and see if we can get her on her phone. So hey coaches, Coach Wildman here. We got Laurie Eisler on. Sorry for the technical difficulty. We're going to start off right where we finished. And Laurie was speaking of her legacy with bringing so many assistant coaches into head coaching roles in post-secondary institutions across Canada. So we cut out kind of halfway between that. So we'll start from there. There you go, Laurie. So go ahead. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it cut out, but I would just say that coaches that I've had the opportunity to work with were really clear-minded in where they wanted to go, and realized how much work there is into the journey that you got to pay your dues and you got to do a lot of coaching. And I think they were also really honest about where the gaps were in their experience or their knowledge. And so just trying to help them find a way and create opportunities for them to fill in those gaps and to gain the knowledges that they need and the experiences that they need. And I think our M-Coach program, our Masters in Coaching program here in the Faculty of Kinesis really helped us create some opportunities for them also to, get a master's degree, which definitely improves the employability at a post-secondary institution, and I think is really deepen their knowledge to help them to learn and think really critically about coaching.
Right. Now, something that you're a huge advocate for is obviously getting more women into coaching. Can you tell us, I know you're on a committee with Volleyball Alberta regarding these sort of situations. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, I think I think women have a lot to offer in coaching.
For sure.
It's not a lot of men that have played women's volleyball.
Right.
And if it is an advantage of having played the sport that you're coaching, I don't think it's absolute necessary that you have to have played the game, but it's certainly an advantage to having played the game and experienced what the athletes are experiencing. So that's something that all women have a huge advantage
for sure
over men. And so along with that, I think the opportunity for young girls, I think as much of it is about the benefit to the young girls and women in our sport, for them to see women in leadership. And we just, as you know, that there's not a lot of still women in leading roles, whether it's in politics, whether it's in business, whether it's in sport and in education. And so for, our young women in sport and young girls in sport to see women coaching and to see what that looks like, maybe opens up their eyes a little bit about what is potentially available to them down the road, if that's something that they want to do. And I think we're actually seeing in this time that there's some rock star women politicians that are really showing that women in leadership is a really good thing. And I think there's been some fabulous women coaching, whether it's in volleyball, basketball, whatever, at university. We've got, the reigning Olympic champion is coached by a woman. So it's obviously women can do it.
For sure. Absolutely.
If they're provided with the opportunities. So it's not easy. It's a really tough road for women. Mm-hmm. I think it's a tough road for men too, but it's just different for women. And the numbers, like the inequities right now, is crazy. Just within Alberta, it's way out of whack. And it's something that I think we really need to do something meaningful about and not just put lip service to it.
Right. No, and I think Volleyball Alberta has done a great job kind of pushing this forward. And you're leading the charge on this one. So, being with having dominant male, there's majority of male coaches coaching women at this point in youth sport. Is there any, what sort of hurdles do you deal with as a female coach in an industry dominated at this point by male coaches?
Well, I certainly don't feel dominated.
Okay.
But I do feel like there's probably some challenges I face that men don't.
Right.
I don't know of any man that took a couple maternity leaves.
Fair enough.
In the middle of their careers, as an example.
Yeah.
I think we are, as women, we have a big target on us. I think women tend to have to earn respect, and men are just granted respect, and it's something they have to lose.
Right.
Women have to work really hard to earn respect.
Right.
And so right from the beginning, it's a tough road, and then you've got to maintain it. It can be lost so fast. I know there is some research around that, especially around professors and how female professors are rated compared to male professors. And I believe it's the same in sport. I see it the same. I just don't have any research to be able to, to back it up. But I know that women have a big target on them, and it's a tough road, and it's a career that's already very isolating.
Right.
So, there isn't necessarily a natural kind of networking system for women. And I think that's something that we could really work on developing, that we support one another and to create the opportunities, just, whether it's through mentorship. And I think that's something really important through club development and reaching down the level and bringing some of these young women up and helping them to really navigate those waters, because it might even be more difficult, to be honest, at the club level than it is for those of us that are so fortunate to reach the university level.
Yeah, and I mean, dominant might have been the wrong word. I just mean there's obviously more male coaches than female coaches. I mean, you are one of the most successful programs in U Sport on a continuous basis, right? So who's your aspiration? Who do you look up to as a mentor?
Well, I've been so fortunate over the years. I already mentioned Mark Tennant, and having 9 years of a virtual volleyball clinic every day with him, every conversation. I leaned on him for years after I came to U of A, and I still lean on him when I need to. And I think I've often said that everything I needed to know about coaching, I learned from Mark.
Right.
It doesn't mean I stopped learning there, but I had the things I needed to know.
Right.
And from there, I've had a number of mentors, to be honest. I worked closely with Lawrence Lula for a few years, especially during the years I was having my babies, and some Japanese coaches actually that have been really pivotal in helping me to kind of question why we do what we do, and looking at different ways of teaching the game, coaching the game. And some of them, we only know them as Albertans know Fukuhara, that it's a drill, but Fukuhara was my mentor.
Right.
And,
okay.
Just an incredible coach and a great mind for the game. And I had, so lucky to be able to just sit with him and ask him questions and learn from him.
Now, I think, in the club world, there's a lot of coaches that are, it's like, don't want to tell each other's secrets and stuff like that. And you've talked about mentoring assistant coaches. I know Glenn Hogue is very passionate about just kind of gives everything to the clubs and goes, here's my kind of drill book and here's the way I think and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on how the sport is developing? I think, again, as a group like this with Volleyball Coaches of Canada, we're trying to network more and learn off each other and all that stuff. So, is that something that you relate to your, the Pandas Volleyball Club and stuff like that? Kind of your secrets, if you will?
Yeah, I don't think we really have any secrets. I think that's been one of the strengths of, especially, I can't speak on the men's side, but certainly on the women's side in volleyball, that it's been a really great culture in Canada where we're really open. And I don't know of any coach in the country I couldn't pick up the phone and ask a question of, and just have a good dialogue about whatever it is that we need to talk about. And yes, it's very competitive, but I think all of us still have, Volleyball Canada hat on, because we know we are trying to help these athletes in their pathway. And if it ends up being representing Canada someday, that would be awesome.
Right.
So I think the culture is there for us. It's just a matter of finding the mechanisms to meet. We don't meet face to face as much as we used to. And I think a lot of great learning happens when we're just sitting and, having those opportunities to talk, whether it's informally or more formally in a clinic or a symposium kind of setting. I would agree with Glenn. I mean, Glenn really sets the bar as far as just an open book, willing to share. I just got an article from him this week about return to play after COVID. And
right.
He's just so gracious about sharing his knowledge, and I think all of us can really learn from that.
For sure. And, I know that, I know I'm speaking for Volleyball Alberta here. I mean, I know Ian Halliday is moving on to Volleyball Canada, which is great, but he's done an amazing job in the coaching resources and, trying to run more courses and stuff like that and just learning opportunities. So, it's kind of a breath of fresh air, on that sense. So, on a recruiting side, again, you're continuously getting great results. What's your, Ryan Hofer spoke about it a few weeks ago, kind of, it's about the person themselves and the culture and stuff like that. What's your philosophy, at U of A that obviously attracts such strong players and, keeps you on the high end of the rankings?
Well, I think it really starts for us with the quality of the education our students will be receiving at the University of Alberta. It's just an outstanding academic institution. So the good news for volleyball is that many of the women that are playing volleyball are very intelligent and
right.
They're strong academically. So, it does limit our demographic for sure because they have to be able to get into university. And it's not easy to do that. For us, you got to be a great athlete to play volleyball
for
and
sure.
be successful at the university level. So that base athleticism is obviously they got to be, good enough athletically. I for sure have looked more at I think as I've evolved as a coach and matured as a coach, looking more at the fit in our culture as our culture has become more established, is looking for athletes that fit our culture. And I'd say that, we need to have people that are, will really love the grind, like they love the work of getting better.
Right. Yeah.
And so that relentless pursuit that we're never satisfied. The Japanese term is kaizen, is the constant search for excellence and just never being satisfied with where we are right now, regardless of what result we have. So that's a really important value for us is that not only willing to work hard, but want to work hard. Like they just love the work.
Right.
The second thing I think for us is it's not so much the loving to win, it's the hating to lose.
Yeah.
And so that would certainly be, you could call it a strength or a weakness, whatever you want. But for me, I hate losing more than I can speak. And you learn to obviously learn from losing, but I'm not going to leave any stone unturned in the pursuit of, not having that feeling. And I don't do great around people that don't share that. So I am looking for that quality in athletes. And it's, it's frankly, it's not that they're better or they're just different, and they're players that share that with me. We're probably going to connect a little bit better. We're probably going to get each other a little bit better if they also kind of share that quality.
Right.
And then, the ability to, like, the discipline to prioritize their time, because it's so hard being a student athlete, especially at a rigorous academic institution. And we're really demanding within our volleyball program. So if they can't balance things, if they can't time manage, we'll help them to learn. But they've got to be able to kind of put family's always one. Yeah. School's number 2, and then volleyball is like 3, 4, 5. And somewhere down there is those other things that you do in life. But if they're not only able to do that, but again, that's what they want. That's what's going to make them happy. Then I love coaching athletes that are happy doing what we're asking them to do. And it just makes life a lot better for everyone. Yeah. We're all kind of going in the same direction. So that the culture piece is really important. There's obviously the whole, like, are they good at volleyball?
Of course.
And, in a perfect world, they all come in as these perfect players. But, you're trying to find the balance in it. Sometimes the better athlete maybe doesn't have the best technical base or tactical knowledge. And so, how it fits in the timing in your program. And recruiting is really complicated, and it's more complicated now that we can't actually see these athletes compete, which is a real tragedy, especially for them. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you're making your best guess and trying to collect as much information as you can around the whole person. And then you know, in my mind, you commit to that person and you do whatever you can to help them be better and to get to where they want to go. And hopefully that works within the confines of the team.
I think you made a great point regarding, you know, you want athletes that kind of think the same way you do, like hate to lose more than they love to win type of personality, you know. Have you found over, let's say, the last 10 years that the type of athlete changes in the mindset, you know, regarding more kind of expect things to happen more so than maybe years back, like where, you know, there's so much recruiting and all this crap in club where, you know, kids get these offers and whatnot, you know, the drill from Volleyball Alberta, you know, and it's just like these kids kind of, they get recruited every year playing club, and then all of a sudden maybe, you know, they didn't get recruited at university and they're kind of a little shell shocked because all the, you know, the numbers have dwindled, and it's like, well, why am I not getting recruited? So like, how do you deal with the mental side of, you know, your team and stuff like that? How do you keep them level headed, if you will?
Well, I mean, I think honesty is really the key to everything in building relationship with them and just being really honest. I believe I'm a very honest recruiter. Yeah. So I'm not selling them a false, you know, story that they're going to come in, and unless they are, like, if that's the truth, then that's what I'll tell them. But right. I have never recruited an athlete and told them that they'd be a starter. Right. Or how much playing time they would get. There you go. We just don't know. Like, I don't, maybe I'm not smart enough, but I can't predict that. No. And, you know, you really, as recruiters, we're selling opportunities in my mind. And so I'm selling an opportunity to an athlete, and it's really kind of up to them then to earn the opportunities beyond that. Right, for sure. So, you know, I have a pretty basic philosophy that our best players are going to play. Yeah. So if you want to, you know, be on the court, go earn it. Like, go be one of the best players. Be the best player. Simple. Yeah. And then just being honest with them so that they can understand where they sit. Like, as long as they know what's expected of them, you know, where the gaps are and what they can do about bridging those gaps, then generally they're going to be, you know, relatively satisfied. And when they get to the point where they just feel that they can't get over that hump, then, you know, maybe that player's they got to change something. Maybe we got to change something, or they got to look at maybe, you know, ending it. Right. And it's inevitable. You know, when you got 15, 16 players and you put 7 players on the court, it's really challenging. But if you can create an environment, I think we're just really honest with them. Mm-hmm. And obviously they're hearing things sometimes that they don't really want to hear. Mm-hmm. But couching it with, but here's what we can do about it. And here's what we see, you know, down the road and having a future and opportunities. Then, you know, generally I think we've been successful in keeping people motivated, engaged across the season and across a career. Right. Okay. Here's a question from you, from your friend Janelle. Janelle, the question cut off, so I'll go. I know what I have observed, but from your perspective, how do you intentionally develop coping skills and resilience? And then with your athletes, the rest of the question cut off, Janelle. So if you can type the rest of it, but we'll start with that. Well, I mean, I think it's really embedded in what we do in our debrief and our communications with the athletes, and getting to kind of the root of the problem. We don't gloss over anything. There's something that is clearly causing us issues, whether it's in our training environment or in the competition environment. We need to name it. We have to figure out what it is, and then we have to have a plan to make things better and to improve on them. And so, you know, I don't know if it's anything beyond getting to truth. Right. And truth as the athlete sees it, and truth as the as the coach sees it, and we might see different things, and so that's where things can get animated in our in our conversations, but getting on the same page and understanding a common truth, then we can get to the issue at hand. And so I don't know if that's what Janelle is really getting at. I mean, we've had the good fortune of working with Giselle Kruger and the Winter Will for a number of years now. Giselle's I played volleyball with Giselle. I had the honor of playing with her at the University of Saskatchewan, and she was actually a hero of mine growing up. And so a real honor for me at that time to be able to be her setter. She was my power hitter.
Nice.
And now for her to work with our team. And she does a lot of work with our athletes. We also have another person in the mental skills area, Erin Brennan, who's a local sports psychologist. And, you know, they help a ton in just helping to really delve into what are the obstacles right now to performance and getting to the root of the problems and not just glossing over stuff. And I think that's what often happens is it's pretty painful to look deep.
Right.
But if you have some support and encouragement and resources around it, and multiple resources, because people connect with different types of people. Mm-hmm. So I think that has been a real asset for us.
This kind of follows the next questions from Dave from I Dig It in BC. As a coach at your level, how much time do you spend on the mental side of the game with your practice schedule?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
As a coach at your level, how much time do you spend on the mental side of the game during practice?
Well, I think it's all mental. I mean, we're always working on the mental side of the game. Wouldn't really differentiate between. I think it's just embedded in everything that we do.
Fair.
You know, when we start practice, it starts. You know, and so whether it's focus or concentration or prior to practice, individuals doing some goal setting, you know, a connection within the team and how they're interacting, communicating with one another. It's just, it's always happening. And then obviously putting them in some situations where you know that there's some weaknesses in the team, whether it's dealing with pressure or, you know, losing focus under conditions of fatigue or other stressors within the environment, then trying to create those. But that would be on a more as needed kind of focused approach once we see something in competition, then coming back and making the corrections in training. But I just don't see a separation. I think we're always working on mental training. We're always, you know, tactically, it's really, really difficult to separate them out.
Okay. Now, with your assistant coaches, you know, again, we've talked in the past, you know, prior in this conversation regarding them being going on to head coaching roles. And you said that you're a control freak, like most head coaches are. What do you delegate to your assistant coaches, and what sort of clear kind of plan do you have when you move forward with them? Is it, you know, stats on hitting? Is it stats on defense? Is it how do you delegate with your assistants?
Well, it really depends on the assistant and, first of all, what they're capable of doing, because, you know, at the end of the day, the most important people in our gym are the athletes.
Right.
So we have to make sure that we're giving the best that we can give them.
Right.
And so, you know, you have to be at a certain level to be able to do anything in our gym. So it's very, very much individualized, and what the capacity of the coach is, what they need to learn. What we're doing, I'll maybe speak more about presently. I have the good fortune of working with Carolyn O'Dwyer, who was and still is a M-Coach student.
Right.
And I believe it's 3 or 4 years that we've had Carolyn working within our program.
Yeah.
And this year she had really took on the role in competition of tracking the opponent's side out. And so I've delegated more and more to her in that area in really helping to develop game plan around that. But then in competition, I'm looking at maybe do we need to make some changes, and then communicating with the athletes on the sideline of what to expect in this next rotation coming up. And Carolyn's thriving. I mean, I could probably throw everything at Carolyn. She could handle it. Coach Mia, who is an associate coach with our program and is our head coach of training.
Mm-hmm.
he conducts all of our practices, and I'm there more in a supporting role. And we discuss and we design or discuss what we want to prioritize in training for a week. We'll talk before practice about particulars of what we're going to do that day. But once practice is going, it's me as practice. And so that's a lot of delegating. That was a real leap for me, because the training environment is one of the hardest ones to give.
Right.
Give control away, because that's where the real work is done. But Mia is just a phenomenal coach, and I so respect his abilities and knowledge and experience and expertise. And so it's worked really, really well for us. And I think the athletes have really enjoyed it as well.
Now, I know you spoke about O'Dwyer. She's just an amazing person, very just kind-hearted, level-headed. Every interaction I've had with her has been great. She's doing the master's program. Jason Seeger here, I'm not sure if you'll know the answer, but the master's coaching program, is there other ways of getting that sort of degree, if you will? Like if you can't commit to, obviously being there, living on campus and that sort of thing? Is there other ways, of obtaining that?
Right now at U of A, all of our classes are online.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
So I guess in a pandemic, you could do it from anywhere, but we don't know the plan yet for the fall, but our coach program does require students to take courses here at U of A, the courses that are offered, and I don't know that any of them are online, but there is a mentorship, there's a practicum in our coaching program that could potentially, some students have done it from other places. So, whether it's go coach with Glenn in Gatineau and have him mentor you, that could be a legitimate practicum opportunity, but it would only be a portion of the degree program.
Okay. Question. Brenda Willis. If you could do one thing to increase the number of women and coaching at the highest level, what would it be?
Hi, Brenda. Well, that's a really good question. Only one thing. I think it's so multifactorial that it's hard to say what the one thing would be. I think there's some really great strides that are being taken now with some apprenticeship programs that are providing opportunities for recent grads of youth sport, and I believe CCAA to start their coaching immediately after, or really close in that window after they're done playing. Because I think that is the time that we have to kind of get to them before they move on. I think women are very, I think they have a smaller window of opportunity to kind of explore about their career options, and they lock in pretty quick after either graduating or finishing their athletic career. So the more that we can do to grab them at that point before they kind of go off into the sunset and pursue other things, the better. And I think you can't do that without money. Like, we got to create some job opportunities for them where they're being compensated that it is actually a job. It's probably a pretty low paying job, but at least at an entrance level, they can start acquiring the skills, the knowledge, the experience that they could then use to translate into a professional coaching career if that was something that they thought suited them. But I guess if there was one thing, that would probably be the thing that I would suggest. Great
answer. Question from Justin, new to coaching. Any advice for a first-year high school / collegiate coach who is returning to the game after a long time since he's played? What focus would you have and advice would you have for a new coach?
Well, I think for a new coach, there's just so many resources out there, and even in this time of spending a lot of time in our homes, I think the Art of Coaching website is sensational. So spend the money, buy a subscription, and access some of the resources that are available, because I'm even getting a refresher on things that you think you're pretty comfortable with, whether it's drill ideas or things that skill-wise that you want to work on, maybe it's tactics, but something like that would help to reinforce what you already know,
right,
to remind you what you already know, and maybe expose some of the things that you hadn't really thought about or you hadn't been exposed to before. So really invest in your own development, and start planning, start thinking of what those practices are going to look like. And I mean, I don't know how much you can do depending on your coaching philosophy with systems, but start putting some pen to paper, take some chances, plan some stuff out, and I think pretty quick too, you're going to find out what you need, and find a mentor. Talk to someone, have someone that you can bounce ideas off of. It doesn't have to be. I think sometimes the best mentors are the coaches that coach at the same level that you're coaching at.
Right.
Sometimes we want to grab mentors that coach at higher levels, but the ones that really know your context are a great starting point to help you get your feet wet and to get in there.
My daughter has, this is from Shauna. My daughter has just finished her first year of ACAC play and is looking for books to read to help her development as an athlete. Do you have any suggestions?
Oh boy. I'm just trying to remember the name of it. It's the mental game? I bought it for my kids. I don't know if either one of them has opened it up yet. I guess it depends on what your daughter's interests are. If she's really interested in the sports psych side of the game, or they want to, again, I think not necessarily books. It could be more in watching video. I encourage young athletes just to watch volleyball. We are so lucky now, the access we have to international volleyball, whether that be national teams, watching pro volleyball from Europe, watching youth sport volleyball in the webcasts, and I just don't think young athletes actually watch enough volleyball. And we don't get to see it on TV very often, except the Olympics, which we don't get to do this summer. So,
right.
That actually I think is probably my better advice, would be not so much about what book to read, but to actually watch volleyball, because the more you watch, the more it makes sense. The
right.
more you start understanding, when this happens, that'll probably happen. And instead of it just being a bunch of random actions going on the court, it starts to become a little bit more predictable. And you see different styles of play too, and different types of players that do things in their own unique way. And I love watching international volleyball, because you see, like Marv Dunphy says, there's many, many ways to count to 10, and I think for young athletes, just to get exposed to the game at higher levels is a real learning opportunity for them.
Are you a big reader?
Yeah, I am a big, I have been. I've kind of been going to podcasts lately.
Sorry, go ahead. Keep going, sorry.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of walking, and I find walking and podcasting go really well together.
Fair. Now, but do you have any, if you were to read, or have read, read any books in the past that you would suggest for coaching and coaching development?
There's one book in particular that we used here in a kind of an academic sense. It's Mike Hebert's book called Thinking Volleyball. Okay. And I think it made me think about thinking about volleyball,
right?
Critically, about why we do what we do. I've got a book on my shelf that was written by Coach Karpol, the famous coach from what was USSR and then Russia, and it's called Lunatics, That's What I Need, and it's his story. I think I love reading autobiographies. I think awesome. I read Mike Krzyzewski's book. I read Phil Jackson's book. I like to get out. So I've read some football coaches' books. Yeah. I like getting out of volleyball as well, because I think coaching is coaching. It doesn't really matter what the sport is. There's something that we can take from that and learn from it. And I've kind of gone a little bit more the last couple of years into more general leadership, kind of personal development. I've read a lot of Brené Brown. I think Brené is brilliant and really speaks to the profession that is coaching. And she's helped me a lot understand myself better and understand the challenges that I deal with as a female in leadership. And so I would highly recommend Brené Brown.
Okay.
A great podcast as well.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of the go-to now is podcasts are obviously the big thing, and you know, you can just put your earphones in and listen at any time. So it's an awesome resource. Our friend Ben Josephson from Trinity, what are the main gaps you see in our athlete development between club to youth sport, and then from youth sport to national team?
Okay, great questions. From club to youth sport, I'd say in the women's game, their physicality. And so they don't hit the ball hard enough. We have athletes who have never played 5 sets ever
Right.
before they came to university. So just the ability to not only physically perform over 5 sets of volleyball, but technically, tactically, mentally, to be able to sustain play over a long period of time. I would say that, you know, tactically, there's a big gap there. The players generally are successful in age class because they can do something, like kind of one thing really good. Like they got a really great line shot.
Sure.
And then they come to university and find out, oh man, the block is there, and they don't have anything else they can do. So just building a repertoire offensively, the offensive game is so critical in the women's game, although I think there is a sort of sense that it's all about defense. I think offense is critical in the women's game to win points and to win matches. So I'm equipping the athletes with technical skills to be more proficient or effective attackers is really, really important. I could probably go on and on, but those are two of the biggest things for me. And then the gap between university and national team is, you know, I think one major thing is just their capacity. I think I saw it last summer with the VCOC program that our athletes they've never been challenged to have to do consecutive really tough days. And so if you look at an international competition, then the Olympics is 2 weeks.
Right.
They got to be able to perform every second day for 2 weeks at a super high level. And we never have to do that in our system. So then coming back, you know, VCOC is a shorter tournament. We played 3 best of 5s in 3 days, had a day off, and then we made the top 8. So we had the privilege of playing against the top teams in the tournament 3 more days in a row, 1 match a day. And our level just, you know, kept dropping off. And just, I think the capacity to just stick with it and to play at that intense level day after day, which you need to do in volleyball. I believe I've been to a couple of Pan Am Cups with the national program, and I think those were, oh man, it had to be in 7 matches in 8 days maybe. So in order to do that, it requires the physical capacity, the mental capacity, and then that's not even speaking to the technical and tactical, the ability to be able to adapt to different styles of play and demands that the opponent will require from you. So I'd say that would be one. I would love it if a youth sports season could go, be a 12-month season, and that we could do more. But unfortunately, we're just not there yet. But yeah, we need not only more training time, but I think our competition needs to be at a higher level and more demanding more of the time. Okay. So top teams playing against top teams more of the time, and then coupling that with not only on court like volleyball training, but physical training for sure. There's a gap there, I believe, as well.
So let's go deeper into that regarding, youth sport. Obviously because of COVID-19, the Nationals was canceled. The host team always, no matter what their ranking is, get a spot in the national championships. If you could change one thing to make it more competitive, what would it be regarding, would it be the league part? Would it be the U Sport National Championship itself? Single knockout? Best of 7? I don't know. The options are endless. What would you change?
That's a really good question. It would be really interesting to be able to play series, like a Stanley Cup.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I'll start with 16. You have a bracket, and you get down to that. I don't know if you can do best of 7s, but
sure.
The reality of U Sport is we have a lot of restrictions in U Sport. So
yeah.
It's fun to think out of the box.
Yeah.
But I've been at this for a long time, and you can only hit your head against the wall so many times where you kind of go, okay, Uncle, I will follow your rules.
Right. Fair enough.
I'll color more within the lines. And so I've been an advocate for a very long time of not playing the consolation side.
Amen.
But I lost that fight so many times. I've stopped trying to fight it. I think it's inhumane, and I don't think it helps our athletes. I understand why the athletic directors want us to play the consolation side. I don't think they're particularly good reasons, but that seems to be an immovable object. Mm-hmm. So there's no point in even really talking about it.
Sure. I think
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I just think that the series, that's a very interesting, like a Stanley Cup. That's a different answer than from prior coaches. So I think it obviously comes down to money for sure. It comes down to population, flying from East Coast to West Coast, all those things. I got to go to the NCAA Final Four this year, and a big part of the seminars were about how do we make volleyball more profound and, a sport that people will come to on a Friday night with their kids and pay whatever, a ticket price, and have a pro league and all this stuff. And I think U Sport, especially after this COVID thing, tapers off, how do we bounce back and create opportunity to, blow the league up in a great way where, people aren't going to have the money to go to a Oilers game for $190 a ticket, and going to a U Sport game for whatever, $10-20 is an awesome resource. So, are you hopeful that there's going to be some changes based on maybe financial reasons, maybe logistics because of this COVID-19, where we will actually be in a better place for the league itself?
No, I'm not at all.
Yeah.
I think it's just the reality is that it's had such an incredibly bad impact on universities and on sport in general that we're going to be in survival mode.
Right.
I think for a while, and we're really going to have to be creative, I think, in how we can generate. But what it might cause us to do is become a little bit more intentional about how we can generate revenue.
Right.
And like you said, just make it, maybe that will be the thing that will trigger the marketers and the promoters in the world.
Sure.
To actually let people know that there's a volleyball game going on, and to find a way to fill the stands and to make it more of an exciting environment. You watch a volleyball match in Netherlands and they're going nuts. It's just, or Poland.
Yeah.
I love the Polish fans. They're just so engaged.
Right.
And we got to find a way, to make it more exciting and to be more professional about how we present, I think, our sport. I think the webcasts have been great. I think they're really good quality webcasts that have gotten more engagement, but it's not helping to fill the stands, I don't think. So
right.
I think the product is excellent. I mean, the level of volleyball, it can always be better. I get it, but it's still better than anything else anyone's going to see around here in our sport. And there's a ton of volleyball people that are fans and supporters. We know that, and it is really on us to figure out how we can get them in the door and then get them to keep coming back. I think we got to look at more corporate partnerships as well. And I know it's really, really tough times, especially in Alberta, but I think our community has always been great at rallying around sport and women's sport.
Yeah.
And but we're going to have to be out there and active and finding ways to really engage the corporate community.
Yeah, and especially after this COVID thing, there's corporations are obviously not going to have that sort of money to throw around on sponsorship that they might have had, 10 years ago type of thing. And, the big thing that I saw, especially at the Final Four, just on a game situation is, the finals, they won 3 straight, Stanford, and it was like, you're in and out of there. They filled the Pittsburgh Penguins Stadium and you were out of there before you even got in there type of thing. So it's like, how do we slow it down? How do we make it more entertaining? How do we attract more corporate sponsorship? So I'm sure this is on a lot of people's minds. And again, with U Sport and this COVID, how is U Sport, like maybe their sponsors are going to be falling off the wayside because of this and cuts at the university level, like who's to know at this point. So have you been in contact with your team on a regular basis through this situation? And do they have like at home workouts, if you will, or mental training with Kruger?
I have my year-end meetings with them. With them individually.
Oh, okay.
And we will be having a couple in the next week or 10 days to just map out what it might look like. It's just still also uncertain. That I'm trying to keep things as normal as we can, to be frank. And normally in this time of year, we don't have a lot of contact with the athletes face to face. So I'm trying to respect their space a little bit too, and if they need to know, they know that I'm always here for them. They know they can contact Carol, and they've got Giselle and Aaron on speed dial, so they can contact them if everybody's handling this a little bit differently. So I don't want to presume they all want to hear from me daily,
right?
Or be a little too much. But they're going to need to know what's in the plans for the fall. And I think Canada West is meeting this week, so we should have a better idea by the end of the week exactly what we're looking at, and then the uncertainty of whether that's even possible, because so much will depend on what the provincial government directs us to do or not do, and the limitations that they place on us, and that's going to depend on how this virus spreads. And it was a traumatizing experience, the time we had in Calgary. There's no question. I think I still suffer a bit from PTSD from that. And so, I'm certainly cautiously optimistic. Yeah. But I'm a realist too. I know that this could, this is serious.
Yeah, for sure.
And it means, it's lives. So we can't, but I know our government, and I'm confident our university won't put us in situations that where there's too much risk. Yeah. And that will be safe. So.
Yeah, and the hard part is obviously there's so many, the different provincial governments and trying to work together and all that stuff. The rules for U of A and UFC might be different for the rules for UBC and UBCO. And trying to find that common ground to make this league happen is going to be quite the puzzle. So, in closing, like, how do you want to be remembered as a coach? The day that you hang up your clipboard, whenever that is, how would you want to be remembered by fellow coaches, administration, players, athletes, and in the volleyball community?
Well, I hope they'll remember me for my humor. I'm really funny. That was a joke. Yeah. I hope that I'm remembered as somebody who cared a lot. Yeah. I made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I tried to learn from them. Right. And I tried to do the right thing, whether it was the easy thing or not. It rarely is, but I tried to do the right thing, and and like I said, I care deeply about not only the people in the sport, but the sport. I'm passionate about it. I love what I do, and I hope that when I leave here, that no one will really notice. It'll just carry on. Right. Because they don't need me, and it's, it'll just be seamless. It'll be like that little pebble you drop in a pond, and there's a few little ripples, but it won't take long, and people will kind of wonder who that was anyway.
Right.
That would be my hope.
Well, you are an inspiration to all of us. I know you lead the charge on so many things in the volleyball community. You are obviously leaving a legacy behind, and so I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. I don't know what happened, but we made it work. But I really appreciate you joining us. I wish your team the best of luck next season when you guys start up again, and obviously health and safety as well. So thanks for being here, and best of luck moving forward.
And thanks, Dave. While I have you, I just want to thank you for what you're doing for the volleyball community. It's I think it's spectacular, and it takes a lot of initiative and hard on your part, and I just congratulate you on this on these initiatives and efforts that you're making for volleyball to make volleyball better for all of us. So thank you very much.
Awesome, Laurie. Well, stay safe, and we'll chat soon.
Sounds good.
Okay, see you later. Hey coaches, that was Laurie Eisler from U of A women's head coach. Sorry for the confusion at the start, some technical difficulties there. I'm not sure whose end it was on, but here nor there. We have a new website, VCOC.online, so feel free to go on there. At the bottom of the page, we're going to try to do a newsletter every month, just once a month. I'm not going to spam your bloody emails with miscellaneous crap. So feel free to register for that. We'll have some ACAC stuff or CCAA stuff, U Sports stuff. Try to do some coaching education on there as well. Moving forward, this Friday, we have Doug Reimer at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So hopefully we don't have the technical issues that we had today. But here nor there, these will be posted on our YouTube page. And I look forward to seeing you guys on Friday. Talk to you later.